I remember I stayed with Jody in Florida. It was like the early part of May. I didn't even realize like I was going to be there over Mother's Day. Like I didn't even realize it. And so I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like I'm here like over Mother's Day." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, just come with us. We're all getting together at my friend's house. We're going to have a barbecue. We're like going to put oysters on the grill." And it was just like such a fun experience, like getting to like come to these like family gatherings like as a guest. It's like such a fun experience. Welcome to the Dream Big, Have Adventures podcast, where your big entrepreneurial dreams and your dreams of travel and adventure collide. Hi, I'm your host, Tess. I'm a published author and founder of Her House, an app community of solo women travelers who host each other for free, giving us safe, affordable accommodation and a supportive network of women all around the world. Here, we mesh big dreams of building business with your thirst for adventure. Because I'm going to give you a hint. They're actually way more connected than you realize. On here, I dive into building a tech startup as a solo founder and bring women from the Her House community onto the show to share what they're building and how we're bringing women together by hosting others in our network. So no matter where you're listening to this, doing the dishes, on the road, or in the airport, if you have big dreams and a thirst for adventure, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. It's true that staying with locals is 100% going to change the way you solo travel, especially if you've only solo traveled in groups or maybe you haven't ever solo traveled before. I mean, staying with locals is such a powerful way to solo travel. And I'm going to dive into a few of the reasons why it's such a really valuable way to get around while you're solo traveling. And the first way, and it's really the most obvious, but the first way is it's going to save you so much money when you're staying with locals. So I actually have a couple of like stats for you right now. So at the time of this recording, an average Airbnb like in the world is $137 a night, which isn't too bad, but it definitely gets really expensive because it gets to be like around or a little over $950 a week, depending on if you are long-term traveling somewhere. Like it can get really, really expensive if you're going to be like staying in Airbnbs, hotels, throughout the world. Like the average is around $155 a night, and that's over $1,000 a week. So it can just get really, really expensive. When I was solo traveling, if I wasn't staying with a host, I often stayed in hostels because I was in my 20s and hostels are a vibe when you're in your 20s. And hostels, like even those are about $30 a night, depending on where you're located and what season it is. Average, I guess, is $30 a night. These are all American USD, by the way. So that ends up coming to around $900 a month. Again, like beyond your flights, your accommodation is what is going to absolutely eat through your travel budget. All of your budget is going to go to your accommodation. So if there are ways that you can figure out how to lessen that, that's ideal. So like that's where like Her House would come in, or maybe you can do some host like pet sitting and stuff like that. That's ideal. In Her House we do also home swapping, home sitting, and like staying with hosts as well. So there's like Her House is really cool because it has this like trifecta of like ability to find accommodation. So that's another cool thing that we're doing inside of Her House, and that is really just being able to save your money and be able to stretch your travels longer because you're not having to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars every week, every month on your accommodation. It's one of the really important things when you're staying with locals. The next really valuable thing about staying with locals while you're solo traveling is that you get to immerse yourself in the culture of the area. So, you like if you're solo traveling, like you probably want to really experience what it's like to live there. And I'm going to go into that more here in a minute, but it's really like skipping the tourist traps and really getting to know like where do the locals go? Like where do they go? Like where are the pubs that they like to go? Are there any like local secrets or legends? These are all the things that when you connect with a local, when you're staying with a girlfriend in the area, that's one of like the most wonderful things that you can get is to really be able to immerse yourself in the culture while you are staying with your local host. So that's really, really amazing. And next one is it will expand your network locally and beyond. So like whenever I was staying with locals, whether it's with her house or when I was like traveling overseas and I was staying with locals there, time and time again, I would always get invited to their events. Like they're like, oh yeah, like my friends and I played sand volleyball on the beach with Kat and her friends. We went out and got drinks. I was invited to barbecues in Australia when I was like staying with locals there. I was invited to go see their favorite places and be able to meet their friends. And what's cool about it is that like you land in a country, you land in a city and you're staying with a local, you start to get immersed into their friend group. You have like immediate community when you get into the country. It's something that you will not ever get if you are going with a tour, if you are staying in a hotel. You will get some community if you're staying in a hostel, but again, like hostels aren't a vibe for everybody. So it's like not everyone wants to stay in hostels. And so it's like, how can you find community and not be alone when you're solo traveling? And this is one of the answers is like finding a host inside of her house, developing that friendship, going and visiting her, and getting immersed like within her friend group. Like I remember I stayed with Jody in Florida. It was like the early part of May. I didn't even realize like I was going to be there over Mother's Day. Like I didn't even realize it. And so I was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like I'm here like over Mother's Day." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, just come with us. We're all getting together at my friend's house. We're going to have a barbecue. We're like going to put oysters on the grill." And it was just like such a fun experience like getting to like come to these like family gatherings like as a guest. It's like such a fun experience. Like, and another one of our guests, Denise, she stayed with Kayla in Denver, and I think that she was with her over Thanksgiving. And yeah, I think they had like a Friendsgiving or something like that. And again, like she was able to get immersed in Kayla's friend group and immersed in the life of what it would be like to live in Denver. And it's a really, really cool experience because you start developing even more friendships. It expands your network. And that was one of the ways like I organically found places to stay like before, because we didn't have her house. We didn't have like the good technology that we have now, like when I was overseas. So like for me, it was all like very organic networking of like how I found people in certain cities and like, hey, like who do you know? Like who do you know in Sydney? Who do you know in these places? And can you connect me with someone? And, and I think that being able to have that quality of developing these friendships and being able to request accommodation, that's one of the ways like or I organically did it while I was overseas. Now we have her house. Now we have good technology to help you develop these friendships. But being able to have that friend group immediately when you get there, start connecting with them, start making some more friends, just expanding from there is so, so, so valuable. That's another really, really valuable thing to do when you're staying with locals. And the last one is like you get to live like a local and see life through their eyes. And like that's what Kayla got to do when Denise stayed with Kayla and she got to see what life was like as a local in Denver. I was able to really get immersed when I was staying with I stayed with this sweet, beautiful little family in the Gold Coast. And, they had a couple little kids and they were like so sweet, such a beautiful family. And they took me out to like where their kids went to school. And like I got to see like what, like, because I think like we get through this idea like we're in our own little bubbles, right? And all that's reality to us is like this little bubble. And then, but when you're solo traveling and you see like these people with their families and their kids are like, this is a whole, like they have their life, they have their bubble, and this is what life's like for them. Like this is what their day to day looks like. This is what their schooling looks like. And I always was really curious, like what their schooling looked like in Australia, because their holidays are like completely flipped. Like summer is like during their Christmas and stuff. So it was like I was always like really interested in what that was like for them, and they were always very interested in how I pronounce things and what things are called. Like what do you call French fries? They call them chips. And what do you call flip-flops? You call them thongs, and it was like they were always like asking me to pronounce things. It was really funny. And it was so funny because I like told them about a PB&J, right? Like peanut butter and jelly is like, I feel like an American staple, like as a child in America, like PB&J, like you always eat PB&J. When I told those Australian kids about PB&J, they thought it was so gross. They're like, that is so disgusting. I can't believe you do that. But like to them, jelly is like Jello. So like they thought I was like putting Jello on a peanut butter sandwich. And also they can't take peanut butter to school either. So they all just like take Vegemite sandwiches too. And if you haven't had Vegemite, it's a whole other experience in itself. That you should have at some point in your life if you ever go down under. But again, like those are things that I never would have experienced if I would have stayed in a hotel or if I would have been with a tour group. They took me, I stayed with another family that took me to their church. They took me to their favorite beach. They're like, oh, like we have to show her this spot. We have to show her this spot. And it's like a really amazing experience to get that with locals. So I just feel like it's a win-win on so many levels. As a solo woman traveler, when you're staying with locals, you get to save all this money, but you also get to really be immersed into the culture of the area that you don't get when you're not traveling in this way. So I definitely think that if you have never stayed with a local, never like, or maybe, it's kind of an interesting thought, but the whole concept of like asking for accommodation and stuff like that is really uncomfortable for you. Like, I totally get it. Like, that's why I created Her House, because, it might be easy for me to request accommodation, but it's not easy for everyone else. So that's the cool thing about Her House, is because that's what the community's built on. And you can see in like the other ladies' profiles, like who's open to hosting, who is unable to host but maybe open to meet up in the area. I would just like start connecting with some of them, start developing these relationships, because when you develop relationships with someone, especially before you go to the other side of the world to go meet them, or even to the other side of the state or the country that you're already in to go meet this other person, if you develop a relationship first, it will make it an even better experience. Because like when I was traveling and I didn't have anything like Her House, like, because now we have like great profiles, what the host expects, what they appreciate. You can see if it's going to be a vibe, like if it's going to be, you guys are probably going to like get along beforehand. And now we have this great technology to help you do that, like before you go. And we even have a way for you guys to like send voice notes inside of Her House, great technology. So yeah, just jump into Her House if you haven't yet, because it's a great way to connect with locals who are open to hosting you. And it's a really fun experience. So if you haven't done it before, definitely give it a shot. If you do, I would love to hear about your experience. And that's all I have for today. Until next time, I hope you keep dreaming big and having adventures. And we'll see you out there. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Dream Big, Have Adventures podcast. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, a review is a really helpful way to help us reach more listeners around the world. And if you're a woman keen for solo adventure but want a real community who you can connect and stay with around the world, come join us in Her House. You can download the app right now on Google and Apple, and you can check us out with a 7-day free trial. I can't wait to connect with you personally inside of the Her House Network. And until next time, keep dreaming big and having adventures. We'll see you out there.